Before we get started, I got a sticker shout out to Priscilla and Luke. They are over at P.L. Smith on Instagram, and they carved this beautiful plaque for me to commemorate a garden that a person had built for their mom. I'll leave a link to their presents in doobly-doo below. Well friends, I've signed up for the 2021 Fools with Tools Treasure Trade. And what that is a Christmas gift exchange where I've been assigned another maker to make something for. Now the maker I've been assigned does quite a bit of Foundry work, so I'm going to make a couple of Foundry tools for him. One of them I know he has already, but he doesn't have one that I made, and the other one I'm not sure if he has or not. So the first thing I'm going to make is a rammer. It's used to pack sand into the mold around your master, which is the pattern of what you're going to make. Now a rammer is quite similar to these carver's mallets that I made, only the proportions and shape is a little bit different. But I'll be able to use the same technique I used on the carver's mallets on the rammer. Now the only thing is, you got to start out with a good piece of wood. This is a piece of maple that's been laying out back for about 6 years. I took it off a pallet. I think we'll just clean this up a little bit and laminate it, and then we'll go ahead and turn it into our rammer. Look at the grain of that wood. Now we'll let this cure, and then we'll chuck it up in the lathe and make that rammer. Okay, so our glue up is done. Let's go ahead and get the clamps on. Now that's shifted a little bit, so it's at a little bit of an angle, so I'm just going to take that over to the bandsaw and square up the ends. And the fact of the matter is, squaring up those ends wouldn't matter much if you were turning on centers, but since I'm using a backing plate, I want to make sure it's relatively square. All you experienced lathers out there, feel free to chime in and tell me all the ways I'm screwing this up. This is another in a very long list of examples that you will never know what you're going to see on this channel, but if you hit that notification bell, you'll get a notice every time I post something new. You see how we got this flat spot here? That means this end is off center. And it's looking like maybe quite a bit too, because that flat spot goes all the way up to here. That chisel's dull. I think this end is looking okay for the blunt end of the rammer, but then the other end is like a big wedge. So we're going to have to shape that a little more. When you're going to fold a sheet of sandpaper, quarter it and then split one side just that halfway across. And then when you fold it, you won't have two abrasive edges facing one another. I learned that from tips from a shipwright. I'll leave a card to his channel up in the corner. I think this is going to work. Now something about this, you do not want that hole from the dead center in the end. So I'm going to have to come around, mark this, then cut it off in a bandsaw, and then smooth off that end on the belt sander. And that dead center only stuck in there about 1/4 of an inch, so that's all I'm going to have to take off. Then the other end of the rammer is like a pointy wedge, And I think I'll just come right across here. So at this point, we'll cut that out on the bandsaw, then we'll take it over to the oscillating belt sander and clean it up. Now that looks like a pretty decent rammer. I think I'm going to just throw a coat of paste wax on it and call it good so I can get on to the other part of the project. Look at the way the wax makes that grain pop. Well, I think that rammer is going to be just fine. I'm absolutely certain the guy already has one. What I'm not sure if he has or not is a bellows. So that's the other part of the project, is I'm going to make a bellows to include with the rammer. So the first thing we'll do is make a CAD model of a curved and tapered cone, which will be the exit nozzle of the bellows. The first thing I did is draw a circle on the Z plane, then draw a rectangle on the Y plane. Then we'll use the revolve command to turn that rectangle into a disc, and after that we'll use the loft command to connect the circle to the disc. Now the only reason I created the disc was to give myself something to loft to. Once I had done that, I used the extrude command to remove the disc completely, and then the shell command to hollow out the middle of the cone. Then I extruded the base a little bit to give myself something to clamp onto with the bellows. From there we use the 3D print command to send the model out to a slicer. Now the slicer creates a special file that the 3D printer can read and will actually produce this three-dimensional object in plastic. Then here, using the magic of time-lapse photography on an old smartphone that I have laying around, I can show you the entire hour and 15-minute print in 34 seconds. And that's running a little long, so I'll use the video software to speed it up a little more. So after drilling my nose cone interface, I went ahead and cut the two wings that'll be the paddles. I don't know what you're supposed to call these things. I need to have a way to have a spring inside it. Okay, so there's a good spring. Make a spring perch. Hopefully it doesn't go all the way through. And I'll just use my wood to steel welding unit to attach these together. Okay, so I found some fabric. It's denim with a rubber backing. That should make a good bellows. And one thing I need to do here is I need to glue that wing on. And I'm going to do that by just applying a little bit of construction adhesive. And I've got no particular love for Gorilla Glue. It's that I'm using it because it remains pliable. So we'll stick that on there, and when that dries we'll flip it over and stick the other one on there too. Alright, well that seems to be holding together pretty good. Now we'll just glue the other side on, then we'll come in and add the fabric. And as we have learned, it doesn't take a lot. But it does take enough. I think we'll just use masking tape to hold it together. And that is looking pretty good. Alright, let's see how that held. The glue gods were good to me. Ah, I forgot something. One of these is supposed to have a hole in it with a flapper valve on it. And I think I want to sand that a little bit. Here's a piece of a kickball that should make a good flap valve. I think we'll use this JB Weld plastic bonder to glue our flap valve on. And I learned this from Jimmy DeResta. Just put down some tape if you're going to mix up some two-part adhesive. Put a couple of clamps on that. And that should do nicely. Easy cleanup. All right. And that should work. Okay, my little interface block is 1 1/8 inch wide. So we want a 1/1/8 inch wide strip here in the middle. I'm going to add these hinges to it, so we're going to want that strip the same width as these hinges. And if you're wondering about this gadget I'm using, it's called a square. They are offered by Tim Sway. I'll leave a card to his channel up in the corner. So I think I'm going to do this in stages. We'll put the Mod Podge on this top half and all along here, and then we'll clamp it here and smooth it out. And right as I began applying the adhesive, the camera battery died, so I just kept on going. And in case you were unaware, Mod Podge is not only an adhesive, it is also a finish. Get all the wrinkles out. And now I'm just going to leave that to dry. And we'll come back, do the other half, and then install these hinges. And it's the next morning. Let's see how that held. Oh, nice. Not too bad anyway. Now we need to come in here, trim off the excess. And if you ever have occasion to, invest in a quality pair of scissors, because these plastic framed ones that I have here are garbage. Fold that over. And we'll fold this over. Make sure to get the wrinkles out. Having the wrinkles out, very important. At least that's what they say in the instructions. Now we'll clamp that. And now give that time to dry again. And while my neighbor chops down a tree, we'll just come in here and trim off the bulk of this excess. And these are really nice shears. So I want to install a hinge. I want to make sure the hinge is actually right on top of the seam. Mark it, and I'm going to pre-drill holes. Now I'm being very delicate with this at this point, because I'm not entirely certain that the construction adhesive is going to hold once it moves. And I'm confident this thing is going to be very pretty. I'm not confident it's going to work right. And that Mod Podge, if you look right there, that Mod Podge actually left a pretty decent finish on it. I think I'll end up going over the all the wood with it. All right, here we have our simulated dust in the mold, and it works just fine. Awesome. Now I just need to trim off this excess. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and apply a finish. And I've decided that the finish is going to be the Mod Podge. And as Laura Comp says, let glue dry. So these are my submissions to the 2021 Fools with Tools Treasure Trade. They're both going to one person, and I'm not going to say who it is because I'm not supposed to. The person will find out when they get them in a few days in the mail. Anyway, I think I made a pretty good effort here. I'm pretty happy with them. So they're getting shipped today. And they'll probably arrive at their destination the day after this video releases. It's possible he might see them before he gets them. I hope they're useful to him, and I'll include a couple of stickers with the package and patiently await whatever it is I'm getting. Anyway, that's all for this time. Thanks for stopping in. I'm happy to answer any questions in the doobly-doo below, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click up here to see my last video. Click over here to see something of mine that YouTube thinks you'll like. And have a good one.